All right, what's going on, boys? It's Keg back with another UFC Fight Night full card breakdown for tomorrow's UFC Fight Night. Vera versus Cruz. First fight on the card, Osborne versus Tyson Nam. We'll break it down, talk through the bets, see what the best angles are, and try to pick up some kind of money when it's all said and done. First fight, Osborne versus Tyson Nam. So Tyson Nam coming in off a big-time layoff here, right? About 19 months, I think. Last fought Matt Schnell back in January 2021. So it's been about 19 months. Comes back now into action. He's going to be 39 years old in October, which doesn't bode well for him here against a much younger guy. So we ask, how good is Tyson Nam right now? Well, I ask, how good was Tyson Nam when he was in his prime? Not that good. I think he's an average striker at best that doesn't do anything really great at all, but he has power to put you down if he can catch you with that big right hand. That's it. Aside from that, he doesn't have much. His ground game is non-existent. When he's getting the fight he wants, he's fighting behind a pretty solid jab. He's looking to smash it with a big overhand right, either on the counter with a check or in a combination. Aside from that, that's his entire game plan. Osborne, like we were talking about earlier on the Run Pure Sports show with Title and DC, this is the kind of guy that you want to back his fight when it comes to DFS. You're going to want him and a lot of them. If you look at his SureDog page, it's crazy. 9 of his last 10 fights have ended in the first round. Has he won all those fights? No. He's lost 3 of the 9. He got dropped once, and I think he was choked out twice. But regardless, you know, when he steps into the cage, he's looking to get active and early. So the knock on him, obviously, is his inability to figure out the striking range that best suits him sometimes. But I think that he's looked better, at least, since the Manel Kape loss, back-to-back wins over Vergara and Zaruk Adeshev. Still at Syndicate MMA for this fight, which makes sense considering he grabbed the win last time out with that camp. So the odds open offshore, Osborne minus 220. Right now he's about minus 260. So obviously, from a money line perspective, it's dog or pass. Nobody's laying 260 on Osborne. That's just stupid talk. Okay? Not to anybody probably in this division right now. I do think that Osborne's going to win the fight, and probably early, right, based on history. So from a betting perspective, I don't know. There's nothing I really like in this fight at all, if I'm being honest. I'll probably avoid this fight, but fight starts round 2, no, is plus 250 in a fight that a guy's hasn't made it out of the first round in 9 of the last 10. How does that work? It doesn't make any sense. So I'll pick Osborne to pick up the win. I'm not looking to back him here, though. If I was going to play something, it would be round 2 starts. No, plus 250. Maybe it can get out of the first round. You never know. Why can't it get out of the first round? One time. I don't know. It's going to be a pass for me. Yusuf Salaal against Damone Blackshear. So obviously Yusuf Salaal is a prototypical Factory X Muay Thai guy. Now he's dropping in weight for the first time from 145 pounds. But I think it's pretty clear that he's the better striker here. But he's got a problem with volume. He falls into these lulls where He just does not throw his hands. And that's why he lands 2.5 significant strikes per minute, which is concerning. But I think even still, when he is throwing his hands, he's definitely the better striker. Another thing that I mentioned on the show earlier is that this is also a really big step down in competition for him compared to Ilia Topuria, Woodson, Choi. It just feels like this fight is definitely more his speed. But I say that while still respecting the skills of Blackshear for sure. But Salaal, I think at such a young age, how old is he? Let's check how old Yusuf Salaal is right now. $24, maybe? 25. All right. So, I mean, at 25 years old, he's shown he's got a gas tank, decent fight IQ. So I think the future is bright for him if he can right the ship. If he can get the takedowns against Blackshear, I think he will probably roll because that's when he's successful. He averages 2.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. But if he can't get it to the mat, this fight could be competitive because if you do watch Cage Fury, then you know who Blackshear is, right? He was the bantamweight champion, and I like the kid. I'm not really particularly high on Jackson Wink anymore. No, I'm nowhere near as high as I used to be. Now it's really ATT, Glory, Syndicate, Elevation. Like those are the really. I don't think about Jackson Wink anymore and think like a quality fighter coming out of the camp. But he can be explosive at times on the feet. He's got power, especially in scrambles. Blackshear, if he can find the chin, and he's got really good top control when he can rain down some ground and pound. And he's got a bunch of submission wins, and he transitioned really nice to the back, and he can find the choke if you give him an opening. He's proven that. So all in all, I think this kid has a chance to be on the UFC roster for a long time. So Salaal opened a -170 favorite. Since then, Blackshear's taken about 40 cents. I guess that makes sense to me. I probably have a slight lean towards Yusuf Salaal here. But the under 1.5 rounds at +300 is intriguing. Because, yeah, sure. Can these guys come out tentative, bop around for the first round, feel each other out, and then get going in the second? Yeah, it could happen, definitely. But Blackshear could also just push it from the door and try to pick up a win early. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see this kid do that. And then in scrambles, Salaal can knock him out. In scrambles, I think Blackshear can choke him out. So the under 1.5 rounds at +300 is it piques my interest. I'll say that, but I haven't bet it. As far as the side, I'm going to lean with Salaal, but am I betting him? No. Am I betting an angle in this fight? Probably not. I think this could be a good fight to bet live, though. We'll be looking live. But I mean, listen, as much respect as I give to Blackshear, do I rate him as highly as Topuria? No. I mean, Salaal has been in there with some killers. So I'll lean his way. Probably won't bet him. But if you're on him at -125, I get it, I guess. Gabriel Benitez, Charlie Ontiveros. Listen, man. Charlie Ontiveros is 11-8. And the 8 are all knockout losses. The 8 are all knockout losses. Okay? He's definitely got CTE, and he almost beat Samuel L. Jackson for the role of Mr. Glass in the M. Night Shyamalan trilogy. Okay? 8 knockout losses, bro? What are we doing? How is he still getting medically cleared to fight? Like, when he throws punches, who's he aiming for? The guy in the middle? I mean, what are we even talking about? So, you know my rule. I'm not betting my money on a guy that can get put in the flower bed in 60 seconds. I can't do that. I mean, like I said on the show earlier, he get knocked out by a mosquito bite. So it's automatically Gabriel Benitez or pass for me, okay? Now, he's tough to back also. He's dropped 4 of his last 5 fights, but it's been against solid competition at least. That said, though, I think about the finish equity in this fight. You got 8 knockout losses for Ontiveros, right? And if we're being fair to Ontiveros, Benitez has been put down 6 times himself. I mean, so the odds open offshore, Benitez minus 260, and now sits around minus 350. The under 1.5 rounds in this fight is what? Somewhere around minus 230. So, I mean, the books know what most people will be thinking for this fight, obviously. I mean, I think you'd have to be a little clueless to not think that there are better chances that this fight is going under than over, even though obviously anything can happen in this sport. But, I mean, highly unlikely. And that's why up until an hour ago, I still couldn't get props on Benitez. Let me check. Still nothing on DK. Nothing on FanDuel. I don't see anything at MGM. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Charlie Ontiveros to get stopped again, obviously. But, I mean, you're not going to lay the money line on Benitez at minus 330. I don't think that the under 1.5 rounds is worth. That's not even a parlay piece, probably at minus 230. That's just a stay away. So yeah, I mean, from a betting perspective, they're not giving you many options. They won't drop props, so it's a pass. I'll pick Benitez to win the fight, though. Cynthia Calvillo versus Nina Nunes. So this fight was rescheduled from a few weeks back. Nothing has really changed in terms of my handicap. I'm fully convinced Cynthia Calvillo does not want to fight anymore, and she's done. She doesn't like it anymore. She doesn't want to get hit in the face anymore. And she's basically quit in her last 2 fights, and one of them was on the stool. I mean, that is an awful sign for a girl that back in the day lost the championship level competition and she looked like she had a really well-built game. But those days seem long gone lately. She's been a total fade moving forward. The problem is that, like we said a month ago, she could be fighting the only fighter in the division that you might not want to fade her against. Nina Ansaroff obviously used to be a very good striker on the feet. She would beat most people in that division because she had solid power and insane volume and great technique. But that was 3 years ago. Her only fight since June 2019 was a year ago against Mackenzie Dern, in which she looked horrific. So, I mean, she's content, I think, and happy to be a mom, while Amanda Nunes just goes apeshit in the cage. So, the shot on the dog here, it's tough to do. And you certainly aren't backing Calvillo after quitting in a fight. So we're doing what we do. Low level women's MMA split decision, 4-1. And we roll on. Martin Boudet against Lucas Dretzky. Yeah, I don't like either of these guys. Like DC said, we say all the time, oh my God, these are not two UFC level heavyweights. The problem is the division is so bad, who knows what is a UFC level heavyweight anymore? Outside of like the top 8 or 9, the division is a total shit show. So I don't know. Are these guys UFC caliber? Maybe. I mean, they might also be bagging groceries in a year. I don't fucking know. But I do think that Boudet has a great cage control game, really good in the clinch. I think that he makes his opponents carry his weight, and he can strike in the clinch. His knees aren't that bad. But there isn't much more to his game. I think like striking at range or in the pocket's pretty subpar. But, you know, he does just have the ability to get a hold of guys. And he is the 265-pound limit in this fight and a big dude. And usually that doesn't matter in heavyweight fights, but it does here because Dretzky is giving up 30 pounds, weighed in at 236. So he looks solid on Contender Series. But just like Josh Quinlan, I think he got the 9-month suspension too for some kind of substance by USADA. But he's I don't know. I guess he's better on the feet. He's got a solid jab. He looked okay on the feet, but his problem is defensively. He's awful. He's hittable. He's a liability defensively. But aside from that, his cardio I think is questionable, and we don't really know anything about his fight IQ because he's been crushing cans, and I haven't seen enough on him. On the ground, when it gets there, he has solid top control, and his ground and pound is okay, but that's about it. So the odds opened offshore, Boudet minus 200. Let's see where he is right now. 285. Minus 285. Okay. So some people are going to think, oh, two heavyweights. The guy's minus 285. He's got 30 pounds on him. Boudet by finish. The end. Now, listen, that could definitely happen here because 30 pounds is a lot to give up. But how many times have you sat in your house, looked at the television and said, what am I doing with my life? I just lost 15 minutes of my life watching that. How many times have you said that in a heavyweight fight in the UFC? More than a few. So, with that being said, this could be one of those sloppy, boring, awful fights that goes way longer than people think that it will. Now, I think that it can particularly happen here because of Boudet's style. He's totally content to just body lock up and control against the cage. And when that happens, the seconds just start to roll. So I'm going to pick Boudet to win the fight, but I don't really care. I'm not backing him. If I'm betting anything, I'm probably taking a shot on fight to end by decision at plus 155. Or I don't mind over 1.5 in parlays at minus 175. I think this has a very good chance to go over 7.5 minutes. But aside from that, I'm done with that. Loopy Godinez, Angie Hill. All right, Angie, 13-12 now. She drops this fight, she is officially 500. Now, she's been robbed 3 or 4 times, and it's unfortunate. But getting robbed doesn't put money in your pocket, boys. But, I mean, you have to be fair to her. She has fought the best of the best during her career. But the losses are piling up. She's dropped 5 of the last 6, but her losses are to Tisha Torres, Amanda Lemos, Claudia Gadelia, Verna Janjidoba, Michelle Watterson. I mean, and 3 of the last 5 fights have been split decision losses. Obviously, we're on the split here, okay? If she can stay on her feet, I think this has a great chance to go to a split. We know what Angie is, though. High volume, high motor. She's a Muay Thai striker, and that's her in a nutshell. Volume, volume, volume. Historically, though, her takedown defense has been very good, and that's what it's going to take tomorrow, boys. That's what it's going to take. 77% is good. She's only given up 22 takedowns in the UFC on 95 attempts. That's really, really good. But it's going to be tested tomorrow because Loopy looks like a little tank with a high motor that isn't afraid to strike and that gets takedowns. The girl gets takedowns. And once she gets them there, her top control wrestling is legit. So, listen, can it be a little bit of a hype train on Loopy right now? Maybe she's not exactly as good as everybody thinks she is. Yeah, definitely. But she looks good. I mean, you have to admit what you have to admit. She looks good. And I think that if Angie can stay on her feet, Loopy striking is definitely good enough to be competitive, where we're going to see the judges just write splits for Angela Hill fights. They're very, very close. So the odds open offshore, Loopy minus 365. Last time I checked, she was minus 325. Where is she right now? Yep, minus 325 at DK. So, yeah, I guess I'll lean with the move because as high as I am on Loopy moving forward in the division, the opening line was a bit excessive. This is a tough fight, though. Because the smart bet here is we're going to bet the split, obviously, at plus 350 or plus 375. No brainer, okay? But there is a route here. One thing that has to be said is all those split decisions in those Angela Hill fights were all against strikers, not really wrestlers. At least most of them. I mean, she's going to be challenged here, and she did not look good with the takedown defense last time out. So I think she's tough enough not to get finished, though, for sure, I think. So Loopy by unanimous decision, minus 115, that seems like a play because she should control 2 rounds in the fight on the ground, I think. Right? And then just also bet the split prop for maybe a third of that or a quarter of that. I don't know. But those are the 2 best angles in the fight, I think, in my opinion. Jason Witt, Josh Quinlan, another fight that was canceled last week. Handicap hasn't changed. I just like I can't take Antivero seriously. I can't back Jason Witt with my money. 6 times in his career he's been knocked out. 3 out of the last 6 fights he's been knocked out. And I just can't trust the kid with my money. So it's Quinlan or pass, and it's Quinlan. Because I think this kid is going to be a problem if he could stay fucking clean and stop getting popped by USADA. He looks good to me. And yes, this is at a different weight now. I guess it could help Jason Witt's chin slightly, maybe. But I'll take my chances that Quinlan finds the knockout before Witt consistently takes him down. So I'll take Quinlan by KO at plus 110. All right, Bruno Silva against Gerald Mirshard. Big clash of styles here. We were talking about it on the show. I don't know when the last time a guy with 20 knockouts fought another guy with 26 wins by submission. That does not happen often in this sport. So it's like as big a clash of styles as you can have. Now, Bruno Silva obviously has legitimate power. He's got super heavy hands. We're very explosive, whether it's from range or in the pocket. Nice footwork. But he does rely on finishing people. And if he can't finish you, sometimes the cardio doesn't look great late in fights. And that could be a concern for him because, like we talked about earlier, if he can't put GM3 away, GM3 gets that motor going and tries to break you when he thinks you're tired. So if that happens and GM3 can weather the storm the first 8 minutes of that fight, 9 minutes, I think he's live. And I think he's live by submission because let's be honest. Obviously, the knock on Silva is pretty one-dimensional. Okay. He will be entirely out of his depth for sure on the ground tomorrow if it gets there. But, yes, GM3 was knocked out 3 times out of 49 fights. Yes, that is true. Yes, 2 of them were back-to-back 2 years ago against Ian Heinisch and Chimaev. But he's still relatively durable. Now, Bruno Silva can put him down, yeah. But do you want to lay minus 150 on him by knockout? I really don't. I'd rather pass the fight. Because I just like Paul Craig. He's got that same kind of surprise, cash it as a dog. I mean, here the bottom line is you cannot rationalize Gerald Mirshard being plus 235 and his overwhelming path to victory being the submission and the price being plus 550. That doesn't make sense. That means that there's automatic value on that submission problem, period. Now, can he win a decision? I didn't really think the guys on the show were right. I didn't really think about the fact that I guess he can just control 2 rounds with top control, maybe, and win a decision. But I mean, it largely feels submission or bust for me, for Mirshard. And it's probably KO or bust for Bruno Silva, I would think. I don't know. But I can't lay the minus. I'll pick Bruno Silva to win, I guess. But if I was betting something, it would probably be taking a shot on Mirshard, I guess, by decision, or the over 1.5 rounds, maybe at even money. But I understand a lot of people are going to think that Bruno Silva knocks him out and probably early. I get it, but there's just no value in the number. Ariane Lipsky, Priscilla Cachoeira. 3rd fight on the card that was rescheduled from the last week or 2. And I don't know. The handicap, if everybody was healthy and all things were being equal, I would pick Ariane Lipski to win the fight. Now, she missed weight by 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds last week or the week before, whenever that was. And she said she had COVID. She went to the hospital. Is she 100% now? I don't know. If she was, I would pick her to win the fight. I still wouldn't bet her at the price tag. She's like a $2 favorite now, which is interesting that it went up. But I can't bet her. I can't bet her as a $2 favorite when you don't even know if she's 100%. So I guess it's dog or pass, even though I think Lipski should win the fight if she's anything close to normal. But, I mean, it just makes me feel better about the split decision prop at 4.5 to 1. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen in this fight? So why would you bet a side? I don't have a clue what's going to happen in this fight. Neither do you. And if you think you do, you're fucking kidding yourself. So give me the split. I'm done with this one. All right. Mirshard against Devin Clark. All right. So after supposed to being on back in 2017, given the UFC chance, Mirshard gets the chance last year. Looks good in Contender Series. Looked solid. Got the knockout win there. Gets the UFC contract. He fights Chukwe. And he looks absolutely dreadful. I mean, let's be honest. I don't care if you're the biggest Mirshard truther in the world. Okay? You can't sit there with a straight face and tell me that he looked good. He was down 2 rounds. He was about to lose a 30-27 unanimous decision. But he gets a flying knee in the third. He knocks him out. But the decision in this fight is, well, the first one, there are two. The first one is, how do you rationalize how this guy has looked for the last 5 years against how he looked last time out? I don't know I don't know. Because he did not look like the same dude that was knocking Kudalab out on the Sambo scene. I'll tell you that. But he does have big power. I do think that his hand speed in the pocket is faster than you would think it is when you look at his frame. And like we talked about earlier, his cardio has held up good, I think, throughout his career, but it did not look good last fight. It looked bad. He didn't look like he had all that much left. So I think that's concerning here, for sure. But when he is getting the fight that he wants, he's got those double underhooks in against the cage. He's working for takedowns. Once he gets the takedowns, he prefers side control. Once he gets in the side control, he's either working on an arm or he's trying to ground you into the mat, into dust. Right? Okay. But he looked really, really bad, and it can't be overstated how bad he looked in March. As for Devin Clark, the big knock on Devin Clark has always been when he's in a fight, in the fire, in the pocket, and he's getting hit with bolos. He does not like it at all. Some guys live for it, and some guys don't like it. He does not like it. And he becomes his percentage chance of losing a fight increases tremendously when he gets punched in the face repeatedly. And I know that sounds like that's the case for anybody that steps into the octagon, but that is not my intent. But he's a former JUCO national wrestling champ, former judoka. His wrestling skills are legit. And he's going to want to get Murzakanov against the cage and wear him down and work for takedowns or try to blast open doubles. Like, he's going to be trying to get him to the ground also. But I don't think Devin Clark's striking is awful. I think that he's probably not the better striker, but I think that he can defend himself and at least mount some sort of striking game. So the odds open offshore, Murzakanov minus 175. And right now he's minus 150. So Devin Clark take about 25 cents of money. And now I said there were two questions in the fight. And for me, I think the second question is, which one of these guys is going to get the takedowns if they're up against the cage or in open space? Which one of these guys is going to win that battle? Because who wins that battle probably wins the fight. And my gut says that I should say Murzakanov wins those exchanges. Therefore, he will win the fight. But I just did not like what I saw last time out at all. And I don't love a ton of dogs on this card. Now, Title said today, like, apparently, I don't really pay attention to anybody's opinion because it doesn't matter to me at all. I handicap, I make my decision, I make a bet, and I literally live or die by it. So people's opinions don't matter to me. But apparently, everybody likes Clark. I guess he's a trendy underdog. That's a little concerning, I guess. But I'll trust the read. I love Murzakanov. I really do. But God, he looked bad. And you know what? If he comes out and he looks great again, I'll be right back on the train. He's going to have to prove it to me, though. So, yeah, I guess I'll lean with the dog at plus 125. A solid parlay piece and one of the better parlay pieces, I think, on this entire fight card. The over 1.5 rounds at minus 185. I don't mind that bet at all. All right. Yasmin Uragi against Yasmin Lucindo. So Uragi looks like she can crack. Fast hands, some power. She looks like she could put somebody away. That's impressive for a 23-year-old kid. On the ground, takedown defense didn't look awful. She's an impressive kid for 23 years old. But ton of questions still. Her opponent, 20 years old. She's a baby. But she does have 17 pro fights, which is pretty big. She has 8 knockout wins, but her striking game is nowhere near as evolved or good as Uragi's, in my opinion. This girl, when she's getting the fight that she wants, she's getting you to the ground, and she's working for a stoppage either by submission or trying to end you by G&P. But I've also liked what I've seen from her. Odds open offshore, Uragi minus 260. Last time I checked, she was minus 205. These girls are young. It is low-level women's MMA. There are a ton of question marks. Who the fuck knows at the end of the day what is really going to happen here? I don't know. But my read is Uragi can crack. And she's got a good chance, I think, to hurt this girl. So obviously we will be on the split decision prop at 4.5 to 1. And I don't mind a little sprinkle on the Uragi KO prop at plus 270. Because it would not shock me here if it happened. But other than that, total pass. Co-main event, Nate Landwehr, David Onama. So obviously David Onama is just a hype train right now. So many people are on the Onama hype train. Okay. Listen, man, I don't really see it yet. Kid's got a lot to prove to me before I'm on the hype train. I'll tell you that. So Nate Landwehr was very, very highly thought of when he was the featherweight champion at M1 Global. And you gain the respect of the MMA community because all you do at M1 is fight Russian wrestling machines. And he had success on the ground and with his hands. And he beat them consistently. So then he takes the step up to the show. Okay, you're on the show now. Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard realized that he was talented. And they threw him in with some killers early. Julian Erosa gets knocked out by him. A veteran in Elkins, that's a scrappy guy that he had to grind to win it. And then obviously one of the more well thought of prospects in the division, Ludwig Klein. And obviously, I don't know, getting knocked out by Herbert Burns is bad, man. There's really not a lot to say about that. But that's the issue with Landwehr. I mean, and that's his problem at large. He gets into striking wars with fighters that he has no business doing so against. When he's optimally successful, he is just working the takedown, implementing that wrestling game, and just setting a ridiculous pace and using his cardio as an asset. That is when he is like peak Nate. But it doesn't always happen. That's the problem. As for David Onama, he's one of James Krause's pupils at Glory, obviously. Probably the best gym in the world right now with ATT and what Trevor Whitman's doing at Elevation. Everybody loves this kid, but I'm lukewarm on this kid. And a lot of people that watch the show, our live betting show, are also lukewarm on this kid. And so are the guys that I do the live betting show with. It's just, I don't know. I don't see it. Yeah, he's got 10 wins. He's got 10 finishes. He's got power and hand speed. He can be a problem, yes. But he hasn't fought anybody. Really. Mason Jones, I rate high. He lost to him. What else has he done? It doesn't impress me when you crush cans. And it doesn't impress me when you're losing to Garrett Armfield before you sub him. I watched that fight again. I think he was losing that fight. So my problem is Onama is going to win this fight, and probably early, if Landwehr does not implement a strategic wrestling strategy. Wait, I said strategy twice. A strategic wrestling game plan. If he doesn't do that and he decides to get in a war, he's going to get dropped. He's probably going to get dropped. But there is a path for him to win this fight. 100%. So tough. I'm going to pick Onama. But from a betting perspective, I can't pay the price on the kid. He's unproven. The money line is a joke. The money line's dog or pass. The two props that stick out to me, though, would be taking the shot on Landwehr to weather the storm and get the fight into round 2 and 3 and hope to God he can get takedowns and pull off a decision win at 5.5 to 1. Or if you're super high on Onama, the best angle I've seen is taking him to win and the under 1.5 rounds at plus 140 at DraftKings. I think that's the best way to get on him because I think he's in trouble if he hasn't already knocked him out 8 minutes into the fight. Aside from that, I don't see anything here. And I'm not running to the window to bet that fight at all. All right, main event. This fucking fight is tough, man. So I'm looking forward to the fight. Everybody all of a sudden knows who Marlon Vera is now, right? Since that O'Malley win, he comes back, he loses to Aldo, then he reels off 3 straight wins over Davy Grant, Frankie, and then that last performance against Rob Font was really, really impressive. Really impressive. I'm a big Cheeto guy. There's a ton to love about this kid. He's always going to fight for your money. But he is a notorious slow starter. And in most fights, he feels finish or bust to me because of how slow he starts. Sometimes he drops the first round. Sometimes he drops the first 8 minutes. And his general style doesn't always coincide with winning rounds. That's the reason why he's got 7 losses all by decision. Okay? So as a fighter, though, there's a lot to like. I use the snowball analogy with Marlon Vera. Starts slow when he first starts rolling down the hill, but as the time goes by, he picks up the pace. He uses that gas tank in size. And by the time he gets down to the end, at the bottom of the hill, he's a machine. On the feet, though, dangerous range striker that's got power. He's got a phenomenal kicking game. But the knock on him is he's hittable, and he is very easy to hit. 5 significant strikes landed per minute against Marlon Vera. That's not good. So that could be an issue here if he can't finish the fight. Because if he can't finish the fight, he will not even be in the same stratosphere as the volume that Cruz probably puts on him over a 5-round fight. If Dom makes it all 5 rounds. Okay? On the ground, though, Marlon Vera's solid. He's got a BJJ black belt level submission game. And if you take him down, he can find openings and he can end your night. But he's going to take on, obviously, if you don't know, if you're new to the sport of MMA and you're one of the COVID fans, Dominic Cruz is the best bantamweight in the history of the sport. It's not even close. It's not Dillashaw. It's not Renan Barão. It's not Cejudo or Aljo. It's Dominic Cruz. It was always Dominic Cruz. So if injuries don't cut his prime short, he might have built a resume that would have put him in the conversation for the greatest of all time, because there was a span where he was untouchable. And if those knee surgeries don't happen and he has his entire prime healthy, who knows what he would have done in this sport. That's how good he was. He's got the greatest footwork in the history of the sport when you consider his results, when you consider the amount of times that he's been hit in the cage historically, and how quirky and impossible it is to time him. It is elite. As a striker, because of that footwork, the angles that he cuts leave him wide open to hit opponents that are out of position and can't defend themselves. And even through all the knee surgeries, he still has that ability. But the knock on him is his inability to create real power in exchanges, in part because his fighting style doesn't allow for it, and in part because he wasn't given power from the genetic gods. Some people have it, some people don't. He does not. On the ground, he can defend well, but usually doesn't really create real openings for submissions. Sometimes he dusts off that old wrestling game, which is actually pretty solid, but I doubt we see it here. But in terms of cardio and specifically fight IQ, I mean, name me somebody on the roster right now still fighting that has the ability to break down real-time exchanges and adapt better using fight IQ than Dominic Cruz. Name me that person right now currently on the roster. There probably isn't one. And I say all this, and I loathe him as a human being. He seems like a total douchebag. He seems like the last person that you want around you as a friend. He seems like an asshole. But he used to be phenomenal. So the odds open offshore, Vera minus 155, and that's ballooned. I mean, it's getting a little crazy now. Marlon Vera's minus 230. I like Marlon Vera, but I don't think that these odds are a fair representation of how close the fight is. Now, I don't think that Dominic Cruz can win anything other than a decision. If he can make Vera miss and he doesn't get hit with damaging shots, there is a route where he wins a decision. I mean, nobody would be surprised if he did that, right? But the other part of me says, even though Marlon Vera is low volume, the strikes that he lands are significant shots. So on the Rumpier Sports Show, I picked Dom by decision because I knew that the boys were on the other side. And if I was making a pre-fight bet in this fight, it would be Dominic Cruz by decision. But I am not going to bet this pre-fight. I am going to hope that Marlon Vera drops the first round like he usually does. And his price goes from minus 250 to minus 130, maybe, going into the second. And probably hitting Marlon Vera minus 130. Now, there's a chance I might have a little piece of Cruz by decision in my pocket going in, but as of right now, I'm not going to. If I'll tweet it out if I end up doing it, but as of right now, I'm thinking that I'll just pull the trigger on Cheeto in round 2 if he drops the first. But yeah, I mean, that's it, boys. That's all 13 fights broken down. How long did it take us? An hour? Not bad. We are back on the Sports Keg YouTube channel. The live betting show will be back on September 1st, which is going to be sick again. you're going to see Spread. You're going to see Tyler. You're going to see new people. You're going to see maybe Joey, maybe JJ on the live betting show occasionally. And then obviously I'm going to do a ton of content, pregame content for the NFL, pre-fight for UFC. Tonight at 9:00, I'll be live with Coop and a guest to talk Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series race from Richmond. Obviously, everybody knows what I do in that sport. I have a partner, Coop, that kills with me. So yeah, we're going to be rocking and rolling. The channel's going to be alive again. Plus, I'll still be doing some content for Pure Sports. And obviously, get in the Discord. There is a link. Go to at the Sports Keg on Twitter. Look at the banner. The link is there to join our free Discord. I encourage everybody to do so. It's going to be a sports betting community. We have rooms for every sport. We have rooms where we give out plays and picks. So I encourage everybody to check it out. Go to, it's at the Sports Keg on Twitter, or you can go to my Twitter handle at KegTSK. And that's it, boys. I'll be back tonight at 9 breaking down Richmond with my guy Coop and a guest. And then I guess you won't see another video on here. Maybe I'll do some NFL divisional future stuff on here next week early. We'll get some NFL content going. But aside from that, crush responsibly. I'll see you guys tonight at 9. Later.